First we'll begin with the unrest in South Africa, where at least 72 people have died as looters continued to ravage through parts of the country, causing damage to property and destroying shopping malls and businesses. South Africa's national defense have been deployed to parts of the Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal police to assist police in trying to quell the violence. Now, the violence erupted over the weekend, starting as a call to release former President Jacob Zuma, who was incarcerated last week. But it has turned into a violent looting spree. Businesses already struggling owing to the COVID-19 pandemic have been hard hit by vandalism and robberies and are counting cost into millions of rands. Joining me now from Kempton Park, South Africa, is Bishop Idah Peterside of Christ Ambassadors Church. Many thanks for joining us, Bishop Idah. Quickly, as a prophet with a large following in South Africa, how do you feel seeing South Africa in such crisis?
Well, it's quite unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate. And, a whole lot of people are seeing are not seeing what we're seeing based in South Africa. The picture is not good at all. Even as of this afternoon, they've moved into an area called Midrand, and the looting has continued, with everything that is happening. And I think this could have been averted in so many ways. But we're still praying and asking God to intervene, because this is beyond what we've ever seen in the history of the country.
Well, while you pray, because you're one of the very few African ministers of God who gives warnings before anything occurred, did you get a revelation of these protests?
Yes, somehow. I do. Sometimes it's spontaneous, especially when I'm having services. When I'm having services, as a prophet, you hear things, you see things that the physical eyes can't see. On this particular issue, 2 weeks ago, I was holding a program on a Wednesday, like today, and then all of a sudden I had a voice. I don't know how to explain it. Everyone asks me the same question. How do you hear this? How do you know this? But you hear a distinct voice, quite different from the human voice. And I think you hear it in your spirit, while others are speaking into your natural ears. You hear it in your spirit, and it's so precise. It's so precise. My wife is a victim of my prophecies, because most times when I hear things and I see things, she's the first person I relate to. I said, this is what's going to happen. Some of these things, we don't say them because some of them can be very sensitive. I've had cases where I've been told the president will be removed, there's going to be a coup in this country, this and that will happen, or somebody might die. And you have to pray over it, and before you even talk to the person, if you have to. So it's a difficult assignment. But I believe God's trusted me with it. And for example, I'll use this for example. Before they arrested Nnamdi Kanu, I told my wife 3 days before then, I started seeing Nnamdi Kanu in chains, but I don't have clarity when they will arrest him. And 3 days later, the news broke. So sometimes these things come, and most times God reveals them to you to warn people, to let people know that there's a disaster coming, and so they can do something about it.
Well, I believe a warning also comes with a recipe. So what can South Africa do to get back to winning ways?
Well, the instruction was pray, pray before it happened. And I had to make some few calls, spoke to some few people. There's a pressure coming, we should pray. Sometimes these things happen because of what will happen. There are things you can't avert. There are things that must happen for a change to come. And I believe in this particular case, there are things that have been neglected in this country for years, and we've been talking about it. We've been complaining. We've been telling the government these things are not right, especially the crime rate. We complain. We preach these things on the altar. We send warnings. But this time it has hit home. And when you look at the stations and the discussions on ground, all they're saying is that they must do something about the security structure. So sometimes God will allow this for people to wake up. You know, if warnings have come forth and people are not listening to those warnings, God will just shake the boat for people to sit up. I think that's what is happening in South Africa. The churches have been victimized in this country big time. You know, they've opened up malls, they've opened up eateries, they've opened up a lot of places where people gather. The taxis are running, planes, airlines are running, and the churches have been shut down. That is, not even a single soul is allowed in there. These are things we think are spiritual oppressions, and they're things that needs to change. This country, shockingly, every year, the president of the nation goes to a mountain and hands over the country to a deity. So these things are reflecting on how the country is being run from the top. And we've been complaining. I've been here for over 24, 25 years now, and I'm part of the system. We've had times and times and times where we've held meetings with the leaders of the nation, but they just don't want to listen again, because I think they have this communist link with Cuba. You know, the system, even though they say democracy, is run like a communist country. So religion, yes, freely we can practice, but there's still a lot of oppression.
Let me go more personal now. As a former Nigerian international, do you still play football?
Come on now, I'm old for that. I stopped playing about 22 years ago. And when I started the ministry, you know, we have built a structure here that I think would outlive me by the grace of God. So we have I have close to how many pastors that have come through me. We're trying to start a Bible school and start a college. So I've gone beyond football. I watch football for leisure now.
Well, is there a vision for the continent in terms of sports? Because lately we have noticed increased exploits of Africans in sports.
Well, it's always been this way. The issue is not the talents that comes out from Africa. The issue has always been how to harness the talents, you know, how to manage the talents that come from Africa. It's always been our problem. But for the talents in Africa, we have a whole lot of them. We saw the Nigerian basketball team beat the US team the other day. That just goes to show how far we've come, you know, in personnel. But the issue is that the management. We've always complained. Again, I'm a football fanatic enthusiast, and then or sports, as you would say. We chip in here and there. I was actually the media officer of the Super Eagles when South Africa hosted the 2010 World Cup. So I'm still part of the system. I still do a little bit of commentaries here and there for television, you know, but my passion obviously is moved to ministry. And we from behind the scene, we advise those in charge now, and hopefully if they listen to us, we need to go back to grassroots. I've always said that. For those of us that play to the national team level, we all started from grassroots. There's an organization called the Youth Fund, you know, where we all started and brought us to where we got to. Almost all the ex-internationals. So we must go back to grassroots and see how we can help our young ones.
From Kempton Park, South Africa, Bishop Idah Peterside of Christ Ambassadors Church, many thanks for joining us.